It had really been a bad day for Alan. His wife had kicked his ass out of the house. Literally kicked his ass as he was leaving, slamming the door in his face. Only an hour before that, he received a call that his job had laid him off. The fact that he'd gotten most of the money from the bank account was about the only good thing had happened so far this day. Trudging down the street, he'd already tried the few friends he had to see if he could stay with them for a few days. Each had no time for him, or space, or hell, just laughed at him. Well, so much for those 3 friends. Sighing, Alan headed toward the cheap section of town, might as well get a cheap room for a few days. He just hoped he could find another job soon. Starving wasn't something he really wanted to try. Checking in, Alan made his way to the room. Damn, he was tired, and the bitch had really drained him of energy with this last fight. Laying down sleep took him almost as fast as his head hit the pillow, something that just didn't happen to him the last few months. Usually, Alan didn't dream. He thought it had something to do with stress, he wasn't sure. This time, though, almost as soon as his eyes were closed, the dream started. He was floating, where he wasn't sure. It was warm. It was peaceful, something Alan wasn't accustomed to. In fact, it was too comfortable. Then just as suddenly, he was standing on the ground. Well, he thought it was ground. He wasn't sure it had a yellowish tint to it like sand, but this felt like he was standing on a sponge. Wait. Alan thought, this is a dream I shouldn't be able to feel, and what was that god-awful smell? Covering his nose as best he could, Alan stepped forward, almost sinking into the soft ground. Fuck this shit, he thought. This should be solid when I walk on it. Rising, he was now on top of the ground. Huh? What the fuck just happened? Walking for a few minutes, almost choking, Alan thought the air was so putrid it needed to clear up so he could breathe better. And like before, the air was suddenly clean, clear, and sweet-smelling. Okay, what the fuck is going on? A noise drew him to a clump of small purple. Oh, he guessed bushes on the other side. What could only be described as a spiked black ball with eyes was flinging an energy whip-like weapon at a group of docile, pink, slug-like creatures. The thing was, these pink creatures had 6 legs and almost human-like faces. Alan was about to turn and leave when he heard a single word in his mind. Help! The thought had been tinged with pain and suffering of a type Alan couldn't even begin to imagine. Turning back, Alan was starting to get angry. Stepping through the bushes, Alan faced the spiked ball which had stopped its whipping. You have to imagine Alan was 6'2". The spike ball was almost as tall and about 4 feet across. Alan heard it think at him. It is a crime to interfere in the Emperor's business. Alan could almost feel venom from the thoughts. Alan thought. The ball thought, raising the whip it was about to strike. When he held up his hand. The ball froze, then shook. Not a trick to Tori. I beg your forgiveness, Lord. I was only following orders. I beseech you not to kill this unworthy soul. Alan was a little unsettled and didn't move. In a flash, the spike ball drew back the whip, aiming for Alan. What happened next was talked about for days among the slim Tory. As the whip traveled toward Alan, it suddenly stopped and reversed course, striking the spike ball. The screams Alan heard almost brought a smile to his face. The whip repeatedly struck the spiked ball till there were no longer any sounds or thoughts from it. Then the black shell cracked and an odd purple fluid began to slowly ooze from it. Alan couldn't feel any remorse about it. He'd given it a chance. Strange thing, though, he thought only moments before. If the ball attacked, he hoped that the whip beat the creature to death. The largest of the pink creatures slowly walked over to Alan, bowing it thought to him. Your intervention has saved all our lives. He was about to beat us all to death. You are many. He was but one. It would have been simple for you all to overpower him. Alan thought, stumbling over his words. The pink slim Tory looked at Alan with a strange look. What is this fight? We know nothing of this. We are storytellers and record keepers. The Emperor is rounding all of my race up to extinguish us. Alan asked, curious now. Centuries ago there was a bold seer who foresaw the defeat of the Emperor by a strange and extremely powerful Tricktatori. So powerful, in fact, that he could exist in 2 planes at the same time. It was said that though not as powerful in the dream and spirit plane, he was still a force too powerful to be defeated by normal means. I do not recognize that word, Alan asked, feeling a little stupid. one who can manipulate the air, fire, water, make things they need from other things, the large slim Tory said. Alan thought a moment it sounded like they were talking about the sorcerers and wizards of old, but he couldn't. Thinking a moment, he knew that the slim Tory were starving almost on the brink of passing out. Waving his arm, he thought of a feast for those there. All their favorite food, poof, it was there. All the slim Tory bowed low as they went to eat. Okay, this shit was getting weird. Walking to the large slim Tory, he asked if there was a safe place they could go to. I am sure even with this food most of us wouldn't make it, it sadly thought. I will take you there, Alan thought. Why would you help lowly creatures like us? It asked confusion in its thoughts. The slim Tory just nodded and went back to eating. After they had all been transferred, Alan looked around the thick-walled building. There was a lot of destruction. Waving his hands, the walls were like new, better even, as Alan had strengthened them over 1,000 times stronger. Almost all the slim Tory were amazed, having never seen a Trick-to-Tory this close. Alan was about to go. He'd felt a tug every hour for some time now and knew he was about to wake up. Damn, this was a sweet dream, just for fun since none of this was really real. He told all the slim Tory that if they had need of him again, just call him. When they asked what his name was, he responded Alan. There was a collective gasp in all the thoughts he heard. Then he heard them all say Alain, just as he was pulled back, then awoke to the phone ringing. Damn, that was a sweet dream. Shit, with powers like those he could do so much damn good in the world, but not in this world. Good shit never happened here. Setting out, he started looking for another job, stopping in anywhere they might hire him. Sighing, he headed back to his room, a lot of prospects, but nothing solid yet. Tried beyond belief. Alan hit the shower, almost falling asleep in it. Laying down again, he was out as soon as he hit the pillow. Just like the night before, he landed in almost the same spot. The sound of many feet drew his attention, and the sound of several whips again. Not even needing to look, his anger grew. Stepping through the bushes again, he saw that the visitors were examining the body of the ball creature. The visitors included a few more of the spike ball creatures. A few creatures that looked like a cucumber with hair, 10 legs and 4 eyes. Above all these was a 2-legged, almost rat-like creature, hairless and whiskerless. Did you see what happened here? One of the cucumbers demanded. A scowl on its almost face, Alan just stood there, his arms crossed. The rat creature glanced his way and immediately flicked her whip at the cucumber creature. It started. The rat-like leader's thoughts almost seemed like a shout. Suddenly, all the creatures were on guard, though many were also shaking. A bad mistake. Alan thought with force, looking at all 20 of the guards with the rat creature. He'd missed the walking snake creatures, plus more of the pink slim Tory he'd met the day before. The cucumber creature began to gag and choke, then it spilt into 4 parts, its gray body fluid spewing everywhere. All 10 of the snake creatures attacked, chanting and spitting. Alan pushed all that they sent back at them, each screaming as it died. The spike balls were the next to die. They tried to roll over Alan, who just moved. Motioning his hand down upon his other hand, all the spike balls were at once flattened, crushed beyond recognition. Or the next one I crush will be you, and there is nothing that they can do, Alan said to the Emperor's daughter, indicating what was left of her guards. The last Alan said as he made a choking motion with his hand, and the princess was choking, unable to catch her breath. The princess threw dagger-like looks at Alan, sucking in air as soon as Alan released her. Turning his back to her, the princess started to choke again. The last of her guards all rushed Alan. Waving his hand, time slowed as Alan walked up to each, and to the princess's horror, he split, then re-split each of her last guards. Walking right up to her, he looked straight into her eyes. Walking to the slim Tory, he released them, then the princess. Alan thought to her as he whisked the slim Tory away. The slim Tory were thanking him again. Those from before were happy to see old friends they hadn't seen, as they said dayseems. They were all discussing what had happened. Most of those here knew different parts of the old seer's story. Alan had started to feel small twinges that were now moving up into small pulls. Damn, it wouldn't be long now. Sighing, Alan made sure they had enough food and space as he had to enlarge the place a little. Alan was starting to walk out, not wanting to vanish in front of the pink creatures, frightening them. When a young slim Tory came to Alan, "For saving our lives and those today," it said as it handed a small box to Alan. There was a huge gasp, then silence when the box fell through his hand. The seer said he would not try to hide but would be hidden. "You are here, but you are not." The large slim Tory from the day before thought. All the slim Tory bowed to Alan. This didn't go over well. Alan did not want to be worshipped. With that, Alan walked out and almost immediately vanished, awakening in his room again. He was again almost as tired as he'd been when he'd laid down. This fucking dream was wearing him out. Rather than go out, he laid back down, falling asleep again within seconds. A vision, you might say, appeared before him. "Hello, Alan," it said, funny, but she looked familiar. "Yes, Alan, I get that a lot, or rather I used to before mankind forgot its magical roots. You have the strongest concentration of magic in you than anyone else on Earth." "What the fuck are you talking about?" "Damn, these dreams are getting worse and worse," Alan said, a little irritated. "Oh, I am real, but the only way to talk to you is through your dreams. Look, when you wake up, you'll have the little box the Slim Tory gave you. Open it when you are ready to actually go to their planet, okay?" With that, the little fairy, sprite or whatever the hell she was, kissed his cheek and was gone. The rest of the day, Alan slept with no dreams, no interruptions. 10 hours later, he awoke to the sun starting to set. Alan, for a moment, was a little disorientated. Sitting up, he searched the room for anything familiar. Sadly, he realized he was in just a cheap hotel room. Rubbing his eyes, he realized he'd got nothing done that day. Shit. Well, he was exhausted. You can't look if you're dead. Sitting up, he at first didn't notice the little box that was sitting beside his bed on the nightstand. Getting up, he went out to get a bite to eat, hoping he didn't run into the bitch of a wife of his that'd really make for a wonderful fucking day. Returning to his room, he sat to watch a little TV when he noticed the little box from his dreams sitting on the nightstand. Thinking, he tried to remember what the little woman in his dream had said. "Open when I was ready for what?" Damn it. He hated the fact that he couldn't remember. It was bad enough the fucking box was here in the first place. It was an hour later, after watching the boob tube, that it hit Alan that he'd actually killed all those creatures. Running to the bathroom, he began to vomit uncontrollably. He'd never taken a life before, not even a fly. And now here he'd killed over 30 or 40 beings. Okay, even though they were extremely evil, and he had given many of them a chance to give up and move on, which they had refused, still it didn't sit right with him. Slapping his face, he called himself a pussy, knowing that they would have killed him with no regrets. No remorse, a hell of a lot quicker than he had them. Still sitting in his chair, Alan heard a little voice say, "Hey, idiot, for one so powerful you sure are forgetful. Open it if you are ready to actually go to the Slim Tory's planet." Looking around, he didn't see anyone, but he swore that was the voice of the little woman from his dream. Sighing, he wasn't sure he was ready to actually go there. The thing was, though, if he didn't, the creatures would be killed when they were found. Reaching for the box, he made sure he had all he wanted to take with him, then cracked the box open. Instantly, he was back on the planet, though this time he was actually there. Well, the odor had improved a lot since the last time he was here. Looking around, he started to curse what the hell was up. Why the fuck did he always wind up in this spot? Alan was about to think his way to where the Slim Tory he'd rescued when he heard an even larger sound of movement past the bushes. Wrapping his arms around him, he formed an invisible physical shield, then another magical shield. Stepping out, he was met by a huge multitude of troops. He guessed you could call them that, though to Alan they were laughable at best. There had to be at least 200 or 300 black spike balls, 100 cucumbers things, another 200 of the snakes, and it looked like they had a new creature that looked like a combination between a walrus, tusks and all, a scorpion, and it looked like dragonfly wings. They had at least 100 of these. "You have disrespected the Emperor and the royal family. Give up now and we will kill you quickly." A tall rat creature in the front screamed at Alan, somewhat pissed. Alan gave them an ultimatum. Not anymore. Alan thought to the 10 rat-like creatures in the front. Each started to laugh, that is, till Alan snapped his fingers and the first rat creature fell over dead, its neck snapped in two. At that moment, Half of the snake creatures started to chant and spit. Alan calmly sent everything they sent at him back at the front of the army. Within moments, all the spike creatures were on fire and dying. This time, all 200 of the snakes started in, Alan thought this ought to be interesting, bouncing everything off before it even got within 10 feet. Alan was starting to get pissed again, making a slashing motion half the snakes' heads separated from their bodies. "You've lost part of your troops, don't sacrifice the rest," Alan thought, as forceful as he could. Again, the rat creatures laughed, sending the cucumber creatures out. Alan sighed and snapped his fingers again. 2 more of the rat creatures' necks snapped as massive panic erupted in their camp. Still, the cucumber things attacked. Alan wiped his head and rubbed his hands together, watching, as all of the advancing cucumber things suddenly dropped, all of them boiling in their own juices. "Your troops and 3 of your generals give up." Alan wished they had a little sense. God, he hated warmongers. Snapping his fingers again, 4 of the remaining 8 rat creatures keeled over their necks, now broken. The last of the troops weren't too sure now. The last of the snakes were still chanting. The dragonfly creatures took off toward Alan, sighing. He made a scissor motion with his fingers as all of the dragonfly creatures crashed, all but 2 bursting as they hit the ground. With that, the snakes fled. The last 4 rat creatures advanced upon Alan. Well, one did, the other 3 died before they even got within 10 feet. Alan felt something familiar about this last one, though he wasn't sure. "Better than I thought you would, but this battle is between you and I," the last rat creature said as it advanced through all Alan's shields. "Yes, I see it now. You let the power corrupt you. You stayed here in this place," Alan said, startled to find another almost human here. "I lost the crystal to travel home. The Slim Tory refused to make another. They said I knew where it was and refused to remember. After a few years, I didn't care that was 5,000 of your years ago. Then that piss-ant seer saw you killing me. As if. Your power won't work on me, as mine is the same," the large rat creature said. Alan knew different, blasting the sword from the hands of the rat emperor. For an hour and a half, they blasted away at each other. Though he'd gotten a few shots through and had actually hit Alan, Alan had done far more damage. Alan's arms were bleeding. There was a gash on his left thigh, a deep cut on his right leg. His right shoulder was also bleeding. The Emperor was faring far worse. Almost every inch of his body had blood coming from cuts. Alan was tired, as he saw the Emperor was. This has to end soon. One mistake and I'll have him, Alan thought. Not long after that, Alan saw his chance and cut the Emperor's throat. The Emperor's mouth opened, he saluted, and fell over dead. Alan had to move, thinking of the Slim Tory he'd rescued. He made it halfway there. Shit, he thought I might not make it. Trying again, he made it to the outer wall. Not sure he could make it around to the front, he drew a door and walked in through the wall. The same young Slim Tory that gave him the box caught him as he fell. There was excited talk as the Slim Tory all gathered around Alan. Alan thought he heard them discussing how to heal him, and a few strange ideas before the world went black. Alan turned his head and caught a translucent outline of the little woman from his dream. "Damn, it's about time I was able to see you." "Not yet, but you will one day. Now we've got a lot to talk about. When you're healed, how'd you like a job?" the little woman asked. Alan smiled. That sounded like a damn good idea to him. Alan awoke the next day with a start. After the past week, it seemed he was starting to lose touch with reality a bit. Looking at the date on his calendar, reality started hitting home even harder. What the fuck? According to the calendar, almost a whole week had passed. A moment later, a knock came from the door of the room he was in. Looking out, he shook his head. Oh, great. It was that bitch of a manager. "I know you're in there. I got that receipt you wanted," she shouted. Opening the door, Alan put on his best face. The rotund, white-haired, short older woman stood there with her arms crossed. "Yes, Mom," Alan told her. "Had a late night last night, so—" She held her hand up to stop him. "Look, I don't care, okay? Just pay each week, then we got no problems. Just remember the rules. No drugs, no loud music, and no sneaking in partners for a few days, or you're out," shutting the door. Alan could only shake his head. His light brown hair was longer than he remembered it being. Rubbing his eyes to clear his vision better, he also noticed that he was sporting a week's growth of beard. What the hell was going on? Suddenly, a female-like voice sounded in his right ear, almost a whisper. I am sorry, Alan. I think I healed you far too much here. A light touch at his forehead opened a floodgate of memories. Suddenly, Alan's eyes flew wide. What? It hadn't been a dream? Where are you? I could see your outline last time, now I'm getting nothing. As I said, the whispering voice started again, I am afraid I healed you far too much. It affected your power as well as your memory. I am endeavoring to remedy this. Alan's head was already hurting like a bitch, after the little voice said that it had healed him too much. And then he'd felt a light touch to his forehead. Again. I apologize, Alan. I was afraid that the council had me recruit you too soon. As fast as you healed, though, before I got to you, I can now see that they weren't wrong. Alan turned his head and stared where the voice had been. All he saw was a shimmering, like the heat waves you could see on a hot day. There, now then, down to business. I was sent to recruit you. You are the first in almost 500 years to show that you have the power, the voice said. I have been— Wait, Alan interrupted her. Who are you? I'm a little tired of you knowing me, but I know nothing of you. He almost felt a palatable shock. Then his head was flooded with tons of information. Oh shit, ah! Alan almost screamed as his head began to throb. You trying to fucking kill me? Christ! Falling on the bed, Alan thought the pain would pass. No dice as the pain increased till his brown eyes rolled back in his head. Floating in another dream, like Scape, Alan looked at a sprite or pixie that fluttered in front of him. So your name is Hopix? And you are my guide? No, that's not right. You're my watchdog, ah? Alan said. Damn, he thought I don't know whether to be insulted or complimented. There's no insult intended. As I told you yesterday, we are offering you a job. Hopix said. I don't understand if this— Council is so powerful, why can't they attend to their mistakes? Alan asked. True, they are a powerful council, but they can't interfere. They can advance any with the power, but after they decide they want to use their power, the council has no say. You see, they offer the job you can reject or accept. Reject after the power is instilled, and you can do most what you want off Earth. Accept, and the council asks you to stop other mistakes that have run other worlds and systems to almost ruin, Hopix said, taking a breath. Almost all your needs will be met, though there are a few they can do nothing about. I am sure you know which ones I am talking about. Alan nodded. It was as always. He worked his ass off and got really nothing he needed in return, and that he definitely needed. Hopix's eyes grew wide. Then she blushed. She had to teach Alan to stop broadcasting his thoughts so strongly. I don't mean to hurry you, Alan, but the council needs an answer. We have another that needs taking care of. He is almost as bad as the last. Hopix said, a small shiver running through her body. How long before they have to have an answer? Alan said, noticing that Hopix was still shaking badly. Soon before the day is finished, she whispered out. Alan, I hope you accept. This case is somewhat personal to me, so I would also owe you much. With that, Alan was back in his room. Alan noticed that most of the pain was gone. Good, at least he'd be able to function while he made a decision. Locking up, he decided to visit his wife. Maybe she'd have a change of heart. Knocking at the door, she snatched the door open. What the fuck do you want? I thought you left. After what you said, I'm not sure After what I said, he shouted. I think your memory is playing tricks on you. You're the one who kicked me out. You're the one who said you didn't need, want, or love me. Let us not forget it was you that slammed the door, not me. I can see I wasted my time coming here. A smirk crossed her face. A waste, yes. That's what I'd call you. A waste of my time all these years. You're a loser that won't amount to anything. I'll have your shit outside in a day or two. With that, she slammed the door even harder in his face. Alan could hear her laughing on the other side of it. Fuck it. Alan thought I really have nothing here to keep me, not even our children. I'm sure she's already poisoned their minds against me also. Alan trudged his way back to the motel. Lost in his thoughts, he didn't notice the man that was trying to follow him. Alan was almost back to the other side of town when the man caught up to him. Hello, Alan. The man smiled. A smile that Alan could see was only a feigned attempt to gain his confidence. We have a proposition for you. You're a hard man to find." Looking at the man's hand extended to shake, Alan decided to ignore the gesture. "What do you want?" Alan said, a smirk on his face. This man was oozing an almost palatable evil. "As I said, we have a proposition for you. Work for us, and we can grant you everything you want. Your wife would love you unconditionally, so would your children. We can make sure that everything you want is granted." The man chuckled a little sinister. Alan stopped. "What?" Looking at the man, Alan was suddenly angry, more angry than he'd been in a long, long time. Alan didn't even notice that his hands were starting to glow, or the fact that the man was slowly backing up. "For your fucking information," Alan shouted, knocking the man off his feet. "I don't want anything to do with that bitch anymore. Second, there is nothing that you—" Here, Alan noticed that the man's ears were bleeding, causing him to pause a second. "Nothing you can give me that will make up for the insult you just gave me. Be gone." The man groaned as Alan reached out to push him away from himself, surprised when his hand went through the man. "What the fuck?" With that, the image of the man exploded, then was gone. Storming back to his room, Alan lay down and was out almost immediately. Hopix appeared seconds later in his dream. "I wish I could have warned you about them sooner," she said. "That was an agent of chaos, one of their better ones. He thought he could turn you easily as he had the others. I am glad he was wrong. So, Alan, do you have an answer? The council awaits." "Yeah," Alan replied. "There's nothing here for me now that I can see. Tell them I accept." "That's good. We've got another assignment for you," came a voice behind him. Alan turned to see a gnome-like creature sitting at a table. "You do this one and I think you'll have a lot more than thanks from the council," the gnome creature said, nodding toward Hopix, who was trying to hold back her terror. And joy that Alan was taking this assignment to her home planet? "I'll leave you to it." With that, he was gone. "Your home planet? And just when were you going to tell me?" "I could not till you accepted the assignment. I am not allowed to sway your decision about anything before you decided whether or not you would join." Tears fell unashamedly from her eyes. "It was my fault that the human who rules my planet with an iron fist is there. You see, I recruited him. I never foresaw the evil he possessed." Alan's heart was finally starting to soften in regards to Hopix. "All right, let's go." Within seconds, Alan was standing on a piece of blackened ground. "This isn't right," he thought. Slowly, the ground turned back to its original colors, blues, greens, and oranges. Sighing, Alan decided he'd have to get used to the fact that not everywhere would even be close to what Earth was. Within minutes, the blackened ground was replaced with a myriad of colors as far as he could see. Better, he thought. Suddenly, there was a rumbling sound. Turning, Alan saw what appeared to be rolling storm clouds. Reaching out, Alan saw it was a cluster of beings like Hopix. Alan brought all his defenses up fully as they swooped in and commenced to dive-bomb him. That is, till the leader of the cluster stopped within a few feet of him. "You," she screamed. "So you are here to stop me? Ha! As if! I have had centuries to perfect all my skills." Alan reached out. Feeling the being was being controlled, making a scissors-cutting motion. The little being screamed, then looked around confused. "Where am I?" Looking at Alan, her eyes grew large. "Please protect me," she pleaded. Alan pulled her inside of his shield, feeling that she was freed from the other's influence. "I suggest that you prepare for me. You want to act like a bitch? Then I will strike you down like the bitch you are." The little being at his shoulder's eyes grew even larger. "But you don't realize who that is," she said, flying to get behind him, then fell through his shoulder. Bowing low, she said, "I didn't realize that you were a Maisie also." "I apologize, I await your orders, Master." Alan's mouth hung open. "Master? What the hell?" "Yes, I have them all trained." She laughed evilly. "If it's a fight you want, then come for me. We'll see who is the strongest to rule this planet." "I," spit out Alan in disgust, "do not want to rule this planet. I am here to free it from you. In your fucking dreams, lapdog of the council." The woman sent a huge bolt of fire at him. Damn, he thought, is that all they have? Jeez. Turning it back, he sent it back through the portal it had appeared from. There was the sound of mass panic from the portal, a scream, Then it closed. All the little beings were suddenly shaking their heads and looking around confused. I have to make sure that she can't do this again, Alan told the little. He guessed you call her a woman with wings, translucent wings. Rather skinny like the 30 or 40 outside his shields. Funny, their skin was a light green color. Alan had to admit for green women, with wings, they were kind of sexy. Shaking his head, he cleared his thoughts, not good to be thinking like that. Come to think of it, Hopix's skin was more of a whitish color. He wondered why. Looking at the being bowed before, he noticed that the others were bowing also. Stop that right now, Alan said. I will not be worshipped. I am not a god. Motioning his hand over the one he'd pulled within the confines of his shield, he saw what had been done to them and the reason for their fear. Alan removed everything he found that the woman had placed there, then did the same to the others. I've removed all the orders she placed in your minds in this. He made another motion like placing a hat on his head. We'll never let her control you again. All of the little women blinked. Their thoughts clear and their own for the first time in over 2,000 years. How is this possible? The one within his shield asked. You are Maisie. Your kind does not grant freedom to slaves like us. Here she bowed her head as tears fell freely from her eyes. Just as suddenly her head snapped up. You aren't here yet, you are. You hurt the other Maisie as if it were nothing. She started to back away from him. You have met one of my kind before. This last in whispered tones. We thought it was only a story that was told to the young ones to keep them in line and give them false hope. You really are here to help us, not rule us as the previous two did. Alan was starting to grow uncomfortable. They were all staring at him with huge round eyes. I have to return soon. Is there anywhere you can hide? I realize that this many of you together will worry her, but I still want to make sure you are safe for now. The one within his shield nodded. Dropping his shield, they all slowly came to the other there. I am Tropix, and I sensed you wanted to know my name. Look deep into my eyes and you will see the place I was thinking of. Alan nodded, and they were there within seconds. Deep underground it appeared there were a few of Hopix's kind here. Many looked to be close to death. There were several screams as many attempted to flee. Tropix stepped out and told them all what had transpired. Though only a few came out, many were too scared to venture any nearer. Alan had been looking around, his anger growing more by the second. Several of the injured children had been abandoned by the others fleeing. A little girl being looked at Alan then groaned. Alan's attention turned to her. He could see all the cruel wounds she had. Waving his hands over her body, others watched in amazement as the girl grew healthier, then suddenly sat up, a look of astonishment on her face. Flittering her wings, she hugged Alan fiercely, whispering in his ear a truly heartfelt thank you. All the elders came forward and listened to Tropix as she again explained what had happened on the surface. Many were in shock, though one smiled. I see you've met Hopix, he stated. Yes, I can see you have. The last I talked to her, she said she would never stop looking for the one to free us. It appears as if she may have succeeded. The look of shock now on Alan's face was all the proof the elders needed. Alan started to heal the worst cases first, though one he wasn't sure of. Making a table of food for all of them was another gift they couldn't stop thanking him for. I want to save all of the injured, but that one there, Alan pointed to a female decked out in regal clothes laying apart from the others. I can't seem to do anything for her. She was also too strong for me to enter her thoughts to heal her there. The elder nodded, looking at the female there. That is Queen Glimmer. I am afraid that only the freedom of our people will heal her. Sighing, he sadly shook his head. She took so many injuries trying to save her people. You actually healed those, so she has a much better chance. But as long as we live in terror and are enslaved, she may never wake up. Alan nodded, looking around, and he thought they needed better protection. Reaching out, he slightly enlarged the area, made better passages to the surface for air. Finally, he struggled to increase the already strong shield. Damn it! He knew he was stronger than this. Putting everything he had into it, he finally had it where he felt it needed to be. Looking around, he saw that several of the small beings had also added their power to his. Smiling, he felt a hard tug. Shit already? The elder advanced and handed a small box to him, which of course fell through his hand. Nodding, the next tug yanked him back, opening his eyes barely. He saw he was back in his room. Damn, he was tired. Closing his eyes, Hopix was in the dreamscape awaiting him. "Were you successful?" she asked, her voice almost pleading. "I haven't destroyed her yet," he replied, "though I did manage to free 30 to 40 of your people. I took them to an underground area with some others of your people and healed all those hurt. Though I was unable to completely heal Queen Glimmer." "You saw Queen Glimmer?" Hopix exclaimed. "Then there is still hope." Alan nodded. Damn it, he hadn't felt this tired in a long time. Hopix's face grew concerned when Alan almost faded. "It appears you overextended yourself. Rest, I will handle everything till you awake," she said as she bowed, and he faded this time. No dream, no nightmare. The rest of the day and the next Hopix kept a vigil over him. She knew that he had a lot more to do, especially now that the woman knew that he had been there, and for all she knew was still there on the planet. 2 days later, Alan stirred. Damn, how long had he been out? Looking around, he felt Hopix for the first time next to the bed. Still only a shimmer, he said. "I have to get back there, Hopix. I only freed one of the many squads of your people she has under her control." "Yes, Alan, but you had to recharge before you went back. As you were, she could have easily killed you. The Council has been monitoring the planet. It appears that the increase in the shield also had another side effect. It seems that she sent another squad, as you put it, into the underground area. As soon as they passed through the shield, they were released from her control. As a result, the Council says that her power dropped a bit. She's using my people's power to increase her own." Hopix growled. Alan nodded. It was as he thought. The only problem was that she was also using the people of the planet as her soldiers, as well as her slaves. "Hopix, I need to be up a while. There is no way I will be able to sleep for a bit. Please bear with me. I know there is urgency." "I will free your people, but I have to do this my way," Alan said with a sigh. He could see the worry on her face. He'd probably be the same if he had family in trouble like this. Taking a walk, Alan hadn't realized he was that hungry till his stomach let out a loud roar. Shit. That was right, he hadn't eaten in almost 3 days. Turning into a dinner, he was about to sit, when a man pushed his way past Alan, grabbing his arm and dragging him outside. "Hello, Alan," the man said. His eyes slightly glazed over. "I can see that we seriously underestimated you. I can assure you that this won't happen again." "As I told you before, you have nothing I want," Alan shouted, his anger rising, ripping his arm from the other man's grasp. "I want nothing to do with you or your kind." Again, Alan didn't notice his hands were glowing a bright red, though the other did and started to back slowly away. "You can't hurt me while you are on Earth, but I can actually kill you," the other man said, advancing. "No," shouted Alan as a scream arose from the other man. Stumbling a moment, the other man said, "You may kill me, but there are far more to take my—" A gagging came from the other man as he slumped to the ground. "Kill him? How would I do that, especially if he wasn't on Earth?" Turning, Alan went back to the diner, shaking his head. Damn, he needed to eat. Alan was trudging his way back to his room. Shit, things were starting to get stranger and stranger. Opening the door, he sat in the chair thinking about the day. "Alan," Hopix said next to him, "are you all right? I felt your distress, but it was over before I even had a chance to lock on to you." Alan nodded and started to recount what had happened to him at the diner. The strange thing, though, he said I couldn't touch him as long as I was on Earth, but he could kill me. I shouted at him, then he screamed. He said I might kill him, but there were many more to take his place, then he strangled and stopped. I felt him leave the body he'd taken over, Hopix. I have no power on Earth, so how is it possible? I am unsure this planet blocks. Hi, Hopix started. "We believe we have an answer for that," came a voice behind Alan. "You didn't actually hurt him here. Though you have no power on this planet, you do anywhere else. You reached out to protect yourself without realizing it. You are a rare find. If you continue to free worlds soon, we feel that the balance of light and dark will once again even out. Hopix's planet will affect a bigger shift because of the total amount of magic wielders on it. More than most. Also, she can go home to heal herself. Alan could only nod. Then as suddenly as it started, it was gone. Oh, Hopix. I met an older one of your people in the underground area with Queen Glimmer. He looked at me and knew I had met you, Alan told her. Wait, a shocked Hopix said. An elder very old feeling and looking? Alan nodded. Hopix squealed in delight. Grandfather! He's alive! Yes, he seemed happy that you had finally done what you set out to do. Shall I give him a message when I return? Alan asked. No, Yes, just tell him in private. I will be home soon. I feel that you will finally free them from 2,000 years of my mistakes. Alan could feel the regret and remorse flowing from Hopix, like heat waves off a hot oven. I should return. I feel I have more to do. I need to weaken her more before I actually fight her. Alan set a sly smile on his face as an idea started to form. Lying down, Alan appeared in the same spot, though everything was as it should appear. Good, she is obviously more worried about me than re-screwing up the world. Reaching out, he could feel the free group of Hopix's people den. They were a long way off. He was about to go there when he felt another group of the tiny people heading his way. Sighing, he brought up his shields and a few other surprises. Slowly approaching him, he felt her before he actually saw the squad of the tiny people she was controlling. So I've finally found you. I thought you were just a lapdog of the council, but you really are here to take the planet from me. I welcome the challenge. Too bad it will mean the destruction of all my slaves to accomplish. A little pissed off, Alan reached out and made a scissors motion above the group in front of him. Once again, he heard the woman scream. Then all of the squad were looking at Alan confused. Then they were all bowing to him, reaching, and pulling them all within his shield, he smiled. Only a moment later, another squad attacked from below, as Alan thought they would. Sighing, he was always surprised how predictive non-military types were, diverting each as they came up. He soon had all of them within a shield next to him. All right, you bitch. That's 4 of your precious squads you have lost. I know the more you lose, the weaker you are. Just think soon. You won't have enough to even light your ass on fire. Alan laughed when he felt her anger erupt, and another portal opened. This time, Alan was ready. Reaching in and grabbing the 2 most powerful beings he felt were feeding the woman's power, he ripped them loose from her. This time, though, she didn't only shriek, he felt her fade a moment before she reappeared. You cock-sucking son of a bitch! When I kill you, I'll make it as long and painful as I can. Those are mine. Again she sent, sigh again, huge fireballs. Almost bored, Alan sent back at her but stopped when he felt something different. Drawing the 2 beings to him, he saw that they looked familiar, though. At the moment, he couldn't place them. Ah! Alan could see what she was doing, not unlike a trick of decoys he was going to try. Waving his hand, the hidden portal opened, the now false one vanishing. Struggling to hold the fireballs and the portal open, he felt the woman beginning to panic. Finally, Alan sent the flaming weapons back at her. He'd have to remember that this wasn't a man he was against. A shrill scream sounded from the portal as he snapped it closed. Looking at the second group, he could even more clearly see the strands connecting them to the woman. A snarl escaped his lips as he violently ripped the strands from the second squad, again pleased when he heard an extremely painful scream near where the portal had been. Looking around, he saw that there were about 75 more of the tiny people staring and bowing to him. The 2 who'd been leading each group came to him bowing low. We await your orders, master. Each said, a look of absolute terror in their eyes. Alan's face twisted into a mask of rage but calmed when all of the beings before him began to tremble uncontrollably. Realizing his error, Alan quickly waved his hands over all of them. Many looked up amazed. All the bad thoughts, all the terror was gone. But how? He was a Maisie, the first male Maisie they'd ever seen, not issue orders immediately. I have removed all she did to you. Your thoughts are your own, and this... Again, Alan made a putting a hat on motion. This caused most of the women in front of him, eyes to fly wide. We'll free you. She cannot make you do anything against your will again. Looking at the 2 unmoving beings next to him, he felt he had to return to the free people quickly. Gathering all the women, he flashed out. A moment later, he was in the underground area, A few screamed when they all appeared, till the elders stepped forward. Maisie Allen, I see. By the great queen! Please, Maisie Allen, we will clear you a path. The same elder that had talked to him before said as he shouted, moving. Everyone out of the way, not exactly sure, but almost on instinct, Allen moved forward till he was beside the queen. Looking at each of the beings, he saw that they were the queen but slightly different. Moving closer, he began to work both into her as slowly and gently as he could. A moment later, her eyes opened and she looked at Allen. Motioning him down, she kissed him, mumbled a few words, then sighed, relaxing, then closing her eyes. Allen's eyes were wide, only the elder had heard her faintly whispered words. He too was somewhat surprised, though. If what the queen had said was true, then he too might be bowing to this man in more than appreciation. The healers flew to the queen as soon as Allen moved away, their mouths agape in awe and wonder. Allen turned and saw the wide-eyed elder. Walking to him, Allen whispered, I take it you heard? The elder nodded. This is not to leave your mind or lips. We will deal with this as soon as I have reunited the rest of the queen. At the moment she is weak and will perish if I do not capture the rest of her mind. Fortunately, the false ruler cannot use her power anymore, so I must hurry before she realizes it. I'll return soon, Allen said as he walked to the middle of the area and enlarged it again, making it almost twice again as large. Motioning to the elder again, Allen bent to whisper in his ear. Allen told him the message Hopix had given him. The elder's eyes grew large, then filled with tears after Allen delivered the message. Allen looked at the elders, expecting them to explain. The same little girl ran to hug Allen. He tried to stop her, but she stopped when she found that she couldn't touch him. There were many gasps when they realized just how powerful Allen was and wasn't even there. The little girl backed up and smiled. I hope you're here soon. It will be good to actually hug you. Allen smiled and nodded before he vanished, opening his eyes. He sighed. He was so tired of this on and off again rescue. Hopix fluttered next to him. This time he could barely see her outline. Hopix, I need to rest. I've freed part of the queen, but I have to go back now. There's no time. I can't fail. No, I won't fail, Allen told her as he grabbed the box. Hopix's eyes were filled with tears. Allen was nowhere as strong as he needed to be, but he was right. He had to go now. Hopix started to speak when Allen opened the box and, huh? They were both on her home planet. No. Allen looked over at her and made a strange motion towards her. Strange. The voices she had started to hear suddenly vanished till there was only the voices of her family in the underground sanctuary. What? But Allen was a new white mage. He shouldn't have this amount of control for a few more years. Allen noticed, even if she hadn't, that Hopix's skin was now a more greenish hue. Plus the fact that Allen could feel her powers had increased almost double, more than almost all but one he'd met here. Smiling, he knew now what had to be done. Looking at Hopix, he thought of the underground sanctuary. As soon as they were there was a multitude of gasps. Everyone knelt before Hopix and Allen, leading Hopix to the queen. Allen saw that Hopix's eyes were filled with tears as she caressed the queen's face. I am sorry, Hopix, Allen started. I do not wish to cause you pain. Hopix looked at Allen in confusion, then fell to the floor screaming as Allen began to pull at her. Tears were falling from his eyes when he felt the spirits start to pull from her body. Allen prayed his strength held out. He could feel the two minds start to separate. Problem was, Hopix's weakened body was starting to lose the fight. Cursing under his breath, he didn't see all the elders, and every magical being in the sanctuary also lent their power to what he was doing. Allen decided that he didn't care. For once, just once in his life, he felt he had made a difference. Opening up, he began to push with everything he had, not caring if he survived, as long as these two did. Finally, he felt the two completely separate. One drifted and settled in the queen. The other was trying to depart, something Allen wasn't about to let happen. Anchoring her, Allen saw her and called out. Surprised, she turned. A look of joy and something he couldn't recognize on her face. Her spirit stopped and came to Allen, she thought. Allen shouted out in his thoughts. Grabbing her, he pulled her with the last of his strength. Suddenly, Queen Glimmer was there. Please both of you return. There is much, very much more for both of you to accomplish. Neither of you realize just how important you are. Return. Alan helped Hopix all the way back. The Queen was helping also. Opening his eyes, he saw that Hopix was starting to wake up. Good, he thought. The Queen and several others were standing over him. Smiling, he nodded, then surrendered to the darkness. There were several screams as he started to spiral downward further into the darkness. Damn, was that Hopix? Wow, that woman had a set of lungs. It was 6 days later when Alan's eyes snapped open. Groaning, he tried to sit up and fell almost to the floor, huh? Almost? Looking over at the feet next to his eyes, he heard a familiar voice. It wouldn't be right for you to get hurt before you're healed, it said. Pushing, Alan righted himself sitting on the cot. I am so glad that so many of us are free to think again. The energy has strengthened us so much that others are starting to break free of the false ruler's hold. What started with a mere 145 freed slaves has grown in almost a squeak to 145,000. Alan nodded, listening to her, feeling his strength rapidly returning. That is till his stomach almost roared. Embarrassed, Alan waved his hand, making food he could eat appear before him. Almost ashamed to look at the Queen till her stomach almost roared. The Queen started to laugh. Alan snapped a look up at her as he too started to laugh. God. It felt good he couldn't remember the last time he felt this good. Your Majesty, started Alan. The Queen held up her hand. I am Glimmer to you, young man. You are never to call me Queen again. We are equal as far as I and my people are concerned. Leaning close, she whispered, though many almost consider you a god, I have told all that you do not wish to be praised or bowed to, or I'd punish them. I won't, it's just a good deterrent, she said as she smiled. A smile that reminded him the most of Hopix's. The Queen turned away. Hopix had been right. He did broadcast his strongest thoughts. At least he wasn't all of them anymore, as Hopix said he was a few squeeze ago. Is Hopix safe? Alan asked. Glimmer only nodded, relieving Alan's troubled mind. All right, Glimmer, you know I have to confront the false ruler. I really don't want to kill her, but if she is like the last one, I might have no choice. I have not decided. Stopping, Alan realized that the Queen was staring at him. What's wrong, Glimmer? He asked. You referred to the false ruler as she. The last was a she before he came. You will need more training to see those that mask what and who they are. You yourself are starting to do so. Alan shook his head. Son of a bitch. He'd let the bastard fool him. If this weak one could, then he was in for a tough time with this job. It was true Hopix had helped him more than anyone he'd met. But with her home, he was pretty sure she would stay knowing her station. Again the Queen turned away. Though he wasn't as strong as an hour ago, he was still sending out his strongest feelings. A small smile, then a tear fell from her eye. She hated concealing the truth, as she knew nothing could change Hopix's mind once she made a decision. This changes things quite a bit, but is he really as weak as I feel he is? Alan asked, yes. Well over a third of our people are free. The rest of the Phyrexies are well on their way, though they're only those that you freed that are actually free in their minds. I don't know what or how you did it, but if you could do that to the rest of them, you would again have our thanks, the Queen said as she bowed to an opened-mouthed Alan. Reaching out, he felt many outside the sanctuary that weren't touched yet. Waving his arm in as big an arc as he could, he felt thousands sigh as all the crap left their minds. Again he waved his arm and again did the hat motion. Suddenly he felt a shift in the energy of the planet. The Queen smiled at him, as Alan didn't realize that he had cleared every free mind on the planet and had hardly strained at all. Finally eager to end this, Alan flashed to the front of the false ruler's palace residence. Alan was reaching out to bring him there when she appeared in front of him. Enough, you fucking little freak, Alan shouted. Waving his arm, the woman's guise blew away as smoke, causing the man now standing there to curse. Who the fuck do you think you are? The man spit out at Alan. This is my world now. I control all these pathetic magical bitches. Alan shook his head and waved his hand at the man. Suddenly frozen, the man's wild eyes were looking everywhere. Just as suddenly, a huge number of the Phyrexies started to attack him. Growling, Alan could see the strands coming from the man. Making a scissors motion, Alan began to saw away at all the strands at once. Now the man was starting to sweat. Finally, a few minutes later, Alan severed the last of the strands. The man's eyes were wide as he felt the last of the power he'd stolen fade. From what Alan could feel, he was almost an average human now. Too bad he couldn't, or could he? Looking closer, then closer still, Alan saw that there was myriad of colors coming from the man. Reaching in, he saw that the colors were coming from a never-used section of the brain. Wonder what it'd take to turn it off. Maybe plug it. Alan imagined a plug made of the same material that the colors were coming from. Holding as steady as he could, Alan began to force the plug into the area. The more it was covered, the less magic he felt from the man. That is, till he had it completely plugged, making the plug grow into the brain. He felt nothing else, no magic, no pressure. Releasing the man stared wide-eyed at Alan. "What have you done to me?" he shrieked. "I plugged your powers," Alan said matter-of-factly. "No, you son of a bitch. You've signed my death warrant along with yours. You don't know who I serve, but you will. I wish I could be there to see you die. Problem is, I am a dead man. No power, no life, that's their rules." A table of dark and evil beings appeared above the ground. A few feet away, the Light Council appeared. "Nam Dad, you are ours," the leader said as he reached out only to find that he was blocked by Alan. Pissed off, he tried to push past Alan. This time, the leader of the Light Council was stopping him. "You know the rules, or should I call you by your name, Lucy?" the council leader started. "No." "Enough!" the red-skinned leader of the Dark Council shouted. "We concede. What say you, Namded? With or against?" "Think before you answer," the leader of the Light Council said. "With us, you could at least live." "Live? With no fucking power? That's no life, ask your lapdog." "Oh, that's right, he had no life before." The man looked at Alan. "You're such a fucking loser." "True," said Alan, holding his temper. "But at least I'm a living loser and not a fucking dead one like you," Alan said as he sneered at the man. "Touché?" "Bitch," the man said. "It's decided," the red-skinned leader of the Dark Council said. "Control your agent," he said, looking at the Light Council. "Do not interfere, Alan," the gnome-like creature warned Alan. "Nam Dade, your soul now belongs to chaos, come dead man," the Dark Council leader said. The man screamed as his spirit was ripped from the body, then consumed by all on the council. "Be warned, Alan Glanto. We are watching you. We will not be as kind next time." "Oh, shut up, Lucy," the gnome started. "No. We agreed to not use proper names either way. Again, we concede we will no longer target your agent, but we will still be watching you, having freed but 2 worlds. Though the Phyrexes world was a bonus, still hasn't turned the balance in your favor." With that, the Dark Council vanished. Laughing, the gnome-looking leader of the Light Council looked at Alan. "I would say you have done more than freed this world. For Lucifer to threaten, you must have really scared him. Good work. Now rest, but we'll have another for you in a few days." With that, they were gone too. Alan went to tell the people it was all over, but arriving in the sanctuary, he was shocked to find it empty. Looking around, he found a note with instructions to get to the Queen's city. Alan guessed that they already knew appearing in the city after an hour of flashing towards it. Alan stared in wonder at the pure crystal city. Walking toward the Queen's ruling building, people were running from him in terror, sighing he was afraid someone would get hurt if he didn't hurry. Entering her palace-like crystal edifice, he stopped before the throne room. Walking in, he almost had to bend slightly to enter. There were gasps when he approached the Queen. Bowing, there were even more gasps, but nowhere as loud as when she curtsied to Alan. Several guards made a move toward Alan. He'd started to raise his hands when the Queen spoke. "To everyone here, this is Alan the Maisie that has freed us. It has been many, many starons since we were free, truly free." "Glimmer," Alan started, causing even more guards to advance. Alan waved his hand, and all the guards froze where they are. "I am leaving soon. Please tell Hopix I am sorry I wasn't able to tell her goodbye. I know she was so happy to be back, as I am sure her grandfather must be. I cannot stay here not long. I fear the Dark Council is now watching me. Though the Light Council interceded, I will still have to watch out. The Queen nodded, curtsying again. Alan bowed, turned, and left. Walking out the front of the palace, the same little girl flew to Alan and gave him a huge hug. I knew you were good, and you feel so good too. I wish you could stay, but I know you have others to help as you have us. You never told me your name, Alan said, happy he got to see her again. Oh, she said. I am Glymax. Till I turn 23 starins, then I'll be free to choose my royal name. Royal name? Alan asked. Yes, since you healed me, I can now assume my place as princess. Didn't you know? Queen Glimmer is my mother. I just wish my sister was as serious about it as Mother and I am. After all, she is 30 starins. She isn't married and has no children. Sometimes I think she'll never meet a male. Alan wasn't really listening. No wonder the Queen was so grateful he'd saved the princess. I have to go, Glymax. I hope to see you again one day. Flashing out, he was home in a matter of seconds. Sighing, he called the council. Yes, Alan, you called? The leader said, though he couldn't see them clearly, he could hear them. I am going to need another watchdog. With Hopix gone, I am still in need of help, Alan said, sad and defeated. He would miss her, but she was finally happy and healthy. Yes, Alan. We have been considering this. There will be someone here tomorrow, the leader said with a straight face. Ah, these humans so simple but powerful. Thanking them, he laid down. But sleep was a long time coming. Of course, this time there were no dreams. Alan awoke hours later, rubbing his face. He looked around the room. Hopix? He said on the outside chance she was back. Dejected, he hung his head. He was glad she was back with her family, but all of this seemed senseless without her, huh? Had he just thought that? I should slap myself, Alan thought. Where in the hell were those ideas coming from? How could he have any feelings for Hopix? They were two different species from two different worlds. Shaking his head. Yes, there was no way. Walking to the diner this time, Alan kept his eyes open. It wouldn't do to get caught unawares again for the third time. Sitting at his usual booth, Alan nodded to a police officer that came in and sat with his partner. Did they get a preliminary report back on that homeless guy from yesterday we found? The first one said. Oh yeah, this was a weird one, the second one said, pulling a sheet of paper from his vest. According to the ME's report, the stiff had been dead for a day or two. Looks like we might be dealing with some pranksters on this one. Thing is, though, can't seem to find any open graves here in the city. Oh, great, the first one replied. Body-snatching grave robbers from out of town. Christ, the media is going to have a field day with this. Alan ate his meal. A little shocked, the man yesterday had seemed a little strange. Damn it, the Dark Council was desecrating graves now. These bastards hold nothing sacred. Alan was heading out the door when he saw another strange-looking man heading his way. Quickly exiting, Alan made his way to an abandoned alley. Why are you following me? I thought I told all of you I wasn't interested, especially after yesterday. Leave me alone. The man stopped short as if he'd run into a brick wall. You won't escape us forever. Sooner or later you'll make a mistake and we'll be there to feast upon your soul. The man laughed. Maybe one day, but not now. Besides, you lost one of the biggest magic user worlds yesterday. I expect to take many more before I'm done. Alan said, the force of his voice knocking the man back further. You can try, Mage Alan. Oh, you can try. With that, the strange man vanished. Walking back to his room, Alan sat in his chair, almost at a loss as to what to do. Suddenly, there was a rush of wind, then there was a shimmering of air behind him. You must really have the Dark Council worried if they are making personal appearances, the leader of the Light Council said. We have another assignment for you. What, no watchdog? Alan threw out. We should have someone here when you return, the leader said. This should be a simple one. Yeah, right, Alan said. You said that the first time and I had help then. What makes this so different? This is a simple pop-in. Grab the hostage, pop out, the leader said, smiling. Uh-huh. What is it you're not telling me? Alan asked. Well, the leader hesitated. The hostage is also the ruler, and might be worse than the last you dealt with, although the one holding them is even worse. You know you guys are just fucking wonderful. You expect me to do this with no knowledge or help? What? Have all of you completely lost your damn minds? I've been making this shit up as I went along. You have been sitting back the whole damn time safe and sound. Remember, these were your mistakes, not mine. I should be treated a fair sight better than I am. Alan was screaming now, his whole body was glowing a bright red. The leader had actually moved back and erected a shield. All right, Alan, the leader shouted, momentarily calming Alan. We apologize for leaving you out. You have more than proven yourself in the past. After today, all information shall be shared. With a sigh, Alan tried to calm down. All right, I'll take a look. But after this, I won't do a thing till I have all the information, not just some of it. Alan laid down and was immediately asleep. Within moments, his dream self was standing. He guessed he was standing in a cloud. Looking around, nothing even closely resembled anything that was familiar to him. Screw this. Make everything look like something I can handle. Just as suddenly, everything took on a more solid appearance. About time, Alan thought. Moving forward, he saw a few buildings ahead. There were also what appeared to be quite a few guards there also. Walking up to them, Alan saw that they were suddenly on alert. Hold, strange one. This is the new ruler's residence. We will not allow anyone past. Waving his hand, all of the guards were suddenly asleep. Alan kept walking till he was in the doorway. Looking inside, he saw a strange-looking lizard-shaped creature, lashing another tied-up lizard-type creature with its tongue. From what Alan could feel, the restricted one was in a lot of pain. Sighing, he cleared his throat. Who are you? Ah, I see the council has sent their latest lapdog to correct their mistakes, as they put it. Too bad you're going to die right here. Turning, the standing lizard shot flames. Geez. Go figure, huh? At Alan throwing up his arms, the flames just stopped short of him. No, you're not even here. You're the son of a bitch that killed my brother and his children. Take care, lapdog, I will kill you and soon. You want this little pansy ass here? With that, the tied lizard was flying at Alan. Be warned, I will not rest till you are dead and my brother and brethren are avenged. With that, the other was gone in a flash. Alan sighed and tried to reach to the other still tied up when they both were drawn to somewhere else. Alan looked around, though there wasn't much to see. Alan thought he could see a few of the council members in the distance. All right, I'm here. Alan shouted, I've brought the one you requested. Alan wasn't one to be kept waiting. The longer he had to wait, the angrier he got. Damn it, they sent him out and were making him wait? Okay, this shit needed to stop right here, right now. Several people began to approach the two men. Alan, we didn't expect you to obtain him this quickly, the leader explained. I apologize for you having to wait. Yeah, well, at least you could have warned me that the one who was holding him was the brother of the first one I went against. You know, a little pre-knowledge beforehand could have prepared me better before I went in there. This won't happen again, or you'll be looking for another enforcer. I hope we understand better now, Alan said, almost ready to walk out. Now that he knew when he was being used and wasn't about to let that happen? Not again. What? You actually saw him? They asked. He is far more dangerous than we at first thought. For now, the planet is safe and returning to normal. Though unlike the first two, they aren't protected. Could you return and shore it up? Sighing, he knew that I'd been had. Why was it that they always seemed to know when he desired to actually help? All right, but no more going in blind. If you really want me as your enforcer or fixer, I'd better start getting more information, he said as he turned and started to leave. Mage Alan, he heard from behind him. We need to give you the information. Sighing, he stopped and turned right as the leader of the council sent a beam his way that hit his head. Suddenly, his mind was filled with cruelty, screams of pain and anguish, the death of quite a few. Then the spirit of the people there finally broken. He was feeling dismal. How in the hell was he going to help these people? They'd probably see him as another cruel ruler. He could still feel their mistrust of anyone not of their kind. Alan arrived back on the planet. He could feel the despair. It was coming from everywhere. Damn it. This son of a bitch had really done a number on this place. Alan reached out to the nearest being. Expecting resistance, he was going to explain what he was going to do. The thing is, there was no resistance. Alan tried to explain what he was going to do, but it wouldn't listen. How in the hell do you help someone who has given up all hope? Who was afraid the least resistance could spell the death of its family and planet? Sitting, Alan tried to think of some way to get through. He had magic, sure, but didn't think he had enough knowledge yet to cure what was ailing these beings. Sighing, Alan cleared his mind and tried to think of an answer. All got quiet around him, then suddenly, he was back on Horpix's planet. Alan flew forward and within moments was standing before Queen Glimmer, though the guards had already tried to block him. "Hello again, Glimmer," Alan started. "Alan," she said, startled. "I didn't expect to see you again so soon. What is wrong? Your face holds such a look of confusion and desperation." Alan went on to tell her everything he could, what he'd felt and seen when he'd gone back to try and release these people. The Queen nodded, thinking for a few long moments. "I think you'll need one of my people with you. They know my people there, and know of us being captured. I feel it is the only way that we can truly free them, but who to send? So many of my people are just starting to regain their power." Alan looked at the Queen in shock. "Just started to regain their power? Okay," he started. "I'm still new at this. What do you mean they just started to regain their power? From what I saw when I was here, they had plenty of power." Queen Glimmer's face took on a serious look as she leaned closer to him. "What you were seeing was their power forced to the surface. This had destroyed millions in the past. There are times I am still surprised that we survived at all. You did more than just free us, Alan. You gave us back life that we can never repay you." Obviously, Alan's face held shock as the Queen looked at him and shook her head yes. "Thank you, Glimmer, but I didn't do that much. I also thank you for your help with these people. I am near my wit's end on what to do about them." The questioning look she was giving Alan made him stop a moment. "Wit's end?" she questioned. Alan smiled. "I'm sorry. It's a term on my world that means I am out of ideas about how to help them." The Queen nodded her understanding. "I will send you someone as soon as I locate them in the meantime. Go back and try to repair what you can." Nodding, I thank her and was suddenly back on the planet. Looking around, Alan saw that truly these beings had nothing. He approached the first being he saw, cringing as he saw it shake at his approach. In the lowest and softest voice Alan could, he asked if there were any cities left. Immediately, one of the three mouths on the face of the being spoke. "No, Great Traka. This area used to be a great city when I was small. It has been gone almost all my life." Looking at the small being, Alan saw what it had as a child. Not too bad. As he turned and started to lift a building from the ground where it had been in his mind, soon he had almost half of what he'd seen. Damn, this was almost fun for a change. The small, yellow-skinned, four-eyed, three-mouthed creature could only stare in almost disbelief. Alan turned to the creature. "I want you to tell all your people. This is where I want them to be. This is their ancient city, and I want them in it." The small creature was slowly backing away from Alan, shaking. Terrified to obey, yet terrified to disobey. Sighing, Alan could see it was going to take a lot to truly free these people, if it was possible. "Please go. Tell as many as you can. I want them here. Many are sick. The walls will protect them now." All four eyes wide. The older creature started to scramble away to start spreading the word. Sighing again, Alan looked around the place. It was missing something. Looking again at the vision he'd gotten from the creature, Alan snapped his fingers. There had been a wall. With that, he began to pull. A 10-foot-tall stone wall began to grow from the ground around the city he'd erected, a smile crossing his face. He was glad when the wall crushed where the last cruel ruler had lived. It was an hour later when a few of the creatures started to top the hill, though the younger ones didn't really understand. The much older ones began to cry as they saw the last great city. Slowly and painfully, they came to the entrance, their eyes huge at the grandeur of the ancient city that had once been their home. Though many were wary of it, they had been commanded by, as they saw it, the new ruler of their planet, so they dared not to disobey. Alan had hidden out of sight, afraid that they might scatter in terror if they saw him there near the entrance. Well, he thought, all I have to do is wait for Glimmer to send me someone. Then maybe I can truly start to help these people. Alan stood nearby, watching as more and more people came into the old city. He'd made sure each building had food in it, more than enough for these starving beings. An hour later, almost as if on cue, one of the Queen's people appeared next to him. Hello, Maisie Allen, she said. Queen Glimmer sent me to help these beings, so you could also. It may take me a long time, I believe you call it an hour? Yes, a very long time indeed. Go home and return in 2 of your hours. I should have opened their hearts and minds by then. Alan nodded. He was starting to feel hungry. A quick bite might help after all. Awakening on the bed, it took a moment for Alan to adjust to his surroundings. It seemed like years since he was here. Stretching, Alan looked at his plain room again. God, he thought how far down I've fallen, sighing. He realized that he missed Hopix far more than he had thought at first. Walking out, Alan headed to the same diner he'd been to the last few days he'd eaten. He was almost there when he felt several sets of eyes on him. Alan could feel the evil and hatred oozing out of the owners, all directed toward him. Stopping a moment, he didn't feel any of them come any closer to him. Good thing, too. It was never a good time to mess with Alan when he was hungry, as he tended to be more impatient and cranky. He only waited a moment, then went in. At least they were wising up then again, as frustrated as he was. A good fight right now might help. Finally getting to eat in peace for once. Alan could still feel them out there, and it appeared that there were more than just a few of them. What? Were they that afraid that they were going to attack en masse? A bad mistake for sure. He had a little surprise for them. He was probably halfway back to his room when he felt first 2, then another 4, then 5 more step out behind him. Better take this out of the way, Alan thought, as he turned a corner and widened an alleyway. He felt now a total of 20 advancing on him. Shit, wasn't that a bit of overkill? Moving to the far end, he awaited their eventual appearance. All 20 had entered the alleyway when Alan closed it off to the outside world. Well, is there one to speak for all of you, or are you going to get in each other's way trying to get to me? Alan started. I speak for all. You have caused your last stoppage of the Dark Council's plans. Today you die, the man yelled. Laughing, Alan waved his hand, freezing 18 of the 20 men. Okay, they sent 2 true-powered ones this time, Alan thought. Good, I'm through playing. The 2 men looked at each other and laughed, then advanced on Alan. Yawning, Alan waited till they were 10 feet away, then grabbed both in mid-stride, squeezing. Both screamed until a black mist rose from each. Looking at the others, they also had a mist rising from them. Then all 20 bodies crumbled to dust. Shaking his head, Alan had to tell the council. Yes, Alan, we saw. Unfortunately, though, the council can no longer intervene. Their agents still can. Be careful, you have eliminated some of their more powerful agents, but they have many more out there. The council thought. Great, Alan thought. So now they are prying into my thoughts? Well, that kind of put a damper on anything private now, didn't it? No, Alan, we have no desire to pry into your private thoughts. We are only listening now as a precaution to you being attacked and needing help. Though from all that we've seen in the last few cases, you are far more advanced than we at first thought. The council. Alan was about to fire off a snapping answer when he received a message from the Ferrixie he'd left on the planet, Maisie Allen. He heard the little woman call. I have freed enough of the people that they will listen to you. Many have heard my story and that of my people and wish for your help. All right, replied Alan. I am returning in a few moments. Lying down, Alan was back to the planet within moments. There were a great many gasps when he appeared, but at least this time there was no wholesale screaming. An older member of the defeated people stepped forward. Traka Allen, the Ferrixie has explained who and what you are. Though you have provided for our people the first comfort any have had in almost their entire lives, many are still untrusting. Alan nodded. He had been afraid when he first saw them that many had been denied for all their lives, as the elder being said. I am not here to rule you. I have no interest in that. I work with the Light Council. This garnered a few startled reactions in the crowd. I was hoping that this gift of one of your oldest cities might help you recover better. Yes, the elder started. Many, though, still think that you will indeed take everything soon. You are the first to actually give us a piece of ourselves back, along with some of our history. For that alone, I thank you. I can sense that there is more you wish to do for us. I wish to make sure that no one can control you like that again. Something like I did for the Pharixies, Alan stated. That would be wonderful, started the elder. Though I am afraid many will be resistant to the idea, we will do what we can. Please start with those of us that will allow it. That way, maybe many others will follow. Sighing, Alan could see that this was going to be a long few weeks. Fixing their minds would take no time at all. It was just going to be difficult to get them all, obviously. Working on each individual was going to take a long time. Though there were a few things Alan thought he could do to speed it up a bit. It was finally after 2 long weeks that Alan finally finished with the last group of the Tribox, as he started to call them. That plus the fact he'd also raised 3 other cities on the planet was also helping with the cause. With the planet protected, Alan realized that this was the first time he hadn't had to actually be there. Well, that was weird in a way. True, he'd gone back each day to take care of his body. Still, it seemed he was gone from it most of the time. The council thanked him again, telling him he earned a rest, nodding he was back in his room. Opening his eyes, he looked around the room, sighing he wished it wasn't so sad. Damn, he missed Hopix. And why would you miss me? He heard near his ear turning, he could barely make out her outline. Please don't play with me, I know she went home to stay, Alan said. Why would I do that when you need me here so badly? Hopix replied. Alan had to do a double take, was it really her? Alan couldn't move. He almost dared not to breathe. He knew she'd gone home. He knew she'd been homesick for centuries. What the hell was she doing back here? His mouth must have been hanging open because Hopix started to laugh. What have you missed me that much, Alan? Hopix giggled. I thought you were gone for good. When I took you home, I felt the longing in you to stay there. Hanging his head, Alan whispered. I thought you'd be happier there than here with me. All right. Yes, damn it. I missed you that bad, okay? Hopix couldn't believe what she'd just heard. Alan had missed her? Why? She was just a simple Phyrexy, trying to do her job for the council, to save as many as she could before Alan was either tired of the job or was killed. Just the fact that he'd freed her planet, plus saved what was left of her family. She would devote the rest of her life to him. Alan, she breathed out, trying to control her shaky breath. I am here to help you. Many things that are wrong were my fault, such as the one that had taken my planet. Here she hung her head. She couldn't tell him not yet. If he wasn't ready, she'd lose him forever. She'd waited far too long to allow that to happen. I am hoping that we can set right so many wrongs that were done by the recruits that I tried to train. Again, she hung her head. Hopix, Alan started. I am more than willing to help you and accept your help. We're a team and a damn good team at that. Hopix had been hoping he would say something like that, but it was still too soon for her to say anything. If she lost him right as they were getting started, she'd never recover. She'd been researching this at home the whole time after her grandfather had said what he had, or she'd have been back a hell of a lot sooner. I hope so, Alan. As I said, there is so much to do yet. We have barely scratched the surface, Hopix almost whispered. Alan was still slightly in shock. Not only had Hopix come back, but she still wanted to work with him. Hell, he still felt he was the worst mage that any of them had ever seen. Alan, you really have to stop thinking like that. You are truly a rare find of a mage. You are accomplishing things that haven't been seen in thousands of years. Again, Alan was a little shocked. He didn't think that his thoughts were that strong. Was Hopix actually a mind reader, or was she more sensitive than most? Hopix had to bite her lip, damn it. Her and her big mouth. She wasn't used to being this excited. As a matter of fact, she wasn't this used to being as confident in her abilities as she was now. She looked at Alan, a feeling of pride growing in her chest, something else she wasn't used to. What Alan had said was true. At first, she had wanted to stay home with her mother and sister. God, she had missed them for so long. Now, thanks to Alan, she had a family again, another thing that she could never truly repay him for. I went over a report of your last job. You did extremely well, Alan, HFY said. I don't know how you think I did well. It took Queen Glimmer and your people to convince them to let me help them. Not exactly a glowing review, Alan replied. No, but... You have to think of it this way, started Hopix. You wasted no time and found a solution within minutes of thinking of it. To me, and I'm sure to them, you are definitely a hero. Your quick thinking saved them even more suffering. Okay, Alan thought. When you thought of it that way, he might have helped a bit. Hopix sighed. What was she going to do with this man? It seemed he had no confidence at all. Had his female partner drained it that much from him? Suddenly, anger swelled in her chest. She wanted to do violent and terrible things to Alan's mate. Shocked, Hopix shook her head. Then she felt the icy cold tendril of the Dark Council pull away. Trying to hurt Alan through her, crafty but wasn't going to work. Sticking her tongue out at them, she felt them bristle. Then they were gone. She had to do something to bring Alan's confidence up, but nothing she thought of would really work. She'd have to work on this, she sighed. The council has given you a few days off, Alan. They think you need rest and a chance to relax. The only problem is I have no idea what people of this time enjoy. The previous selections liked different things. Hopix could feel one of the things Alan desired above all the others. Blushing, she knew she couldn't supply him with that. Well, not yet anyway, but someday she hoped to. It all depended on Alan and his feelings, if any, that he had for her. It's all right. I'm just glad I've given your people, the Slim Tory, and the Tribox a new lease on life, Alan said with a sad smile. Hopix hated to see Alan so sad. She vowed that no matter what, she would cheer him up. Again, she blushed. True, she hadn't in well over 1,000 years. And Alan more than piqued her interest, still she had to make sure of her and Alan's feelings. It wouldn't do to confess to Alan just to have him reject her, crushing her feelings forever. Alan rested the rest of the day, 'bout damn time, he thought. Hopix was just glad she had him back, though it killed her not to reveal her true feelings. She stayed by Alan's side through the night. The next day, Alan went to eat. Hopix actually went with him, though no one else could see her. She was still a little afraid. Halfway to the diner, a shadowy figure stepped from an alleyway. Her eyes wide when they saw the Phyrexy that was hovering close to her target. She thought. At least the council was using their head this time. She'd kill his ass where all the others had failed. Alan ate, watching everything that was going on. No point in going to sleep, there were too many of those bastards on Earth to ignore. He and Hopix had just left when he felt, rather than saw, the evil presence that was following him. Never subtle, are they? Walking into the same alley, Alan waited, telling Hopix to stay back, and what he'd felt. Moments later, a gorgeous woman walked around the corner. Immediately, Alan sealed the alleyway. I don't know why you idiots keep trying to get me to switch sides. It ain't gonna happen, Alan shouted, his anger rising. The woman in front of him mouth dropped open. He was on Earth. There was no way he had control of his power. We no longer wish to get you to switch. You are now targeted for death, she screamed as she shot, go figure, a fireball at him. Extremely pissed off, they were now trying to kill him. Hopix noticed that he was glowing brighter than ever before. But how? This planet always dampened all magic it had for centuries. Yelling no, the fireball bounced back at the woman, screaming she tried to stop it, then hold it. Finally, she cursed Alan, telling him he was a dead man. He was only one man, they would kill him soon. You can try, but right now I have a count of 23 to nothing you make 24 by, bitch, Alan said as the fireball engulfed the woman, then was gone as soon as her screams stopped. Taking a deep breath, Alan tried to calm down, still not noticing his skin was glowing an intense reddish-blue color. Hopix was startled she had to contact the council as soon as she could. In all the thousands of years she'd been doing this, she'd never seen a human express his power visually while on Earth. Smiling, she thought it had to be Alan. He was the most unusual human she'd ever met, or... Shaking her head, no. He couldn't be. There was no way. Sighing, she could see she would have to take another trip home, too. Things were starting to get stranger by the moment. They'd both just gotten into his room when the Light Council contacted them. Alan, please forgive us, but we have a case that we need you on. It appears that this planet is about to die. It has been drained to the point that the core has started to destabilize. It also appears to be the same one you met on the last planet. Do you think you are rested enough to face him? Alan thought for a moment, feeling the strength he had. I believe I am. Though not as strong as his brother, he is still powerful enough to harm a great many, Alan replied. Good. Please leave at once, the council ordered. Alan laid down. Hopix flying to his side. Be careful, Alan. This one is far smarter than his brother. Plus, I feel that he will have many escape plans. Alan nodded. Lying down, he closed his eyes and reached out for a planet like the council had described. Within moments he was there. The sky was dark, the air foul. Reaching out, Alan found the source of all the planet's distress. Again, Alan felt the same entity that he had on the Tribox planet. Reaching deep, Alan powered up as much as he could, his anger also building. Releasing it, he sent as big a fist-shaped charge at the entity as he could. He felt the other crumple from the onslaught, almost all the energy fleeing back into the planet. Appearing next to the again lizard-shaped magic user, Alan reached in, crushing his shape-shifting ability. The lizard creature screamed, looking at Alan. Again, Alan crushed 2, then 3, and then a 4th ability before the lizard's eyes got huge and he flashed out. Damn it. Hopix had warned me, but I was so anxious to stop him I let him escape. At least he can never do this again, nor feed off others, but the other 2 abilities Alan was unsure of. Alan reached out, feeling all the beings on the planet close to death. Freezing all of it, Alan tried to accelerate the energy feeding back into the planet. Finally, the planet started to feel more like it should. Releasing all the life was harder than he thought. Within moments, a massive amount of green, fuzzy life forms were crowded around him. Alan, though tired, had to make this planet safe, extending. He first protected the core, then the beings. They all stared at Alan with wide eyes. Then they all bowed. We thank you, Transari. No other has ever shown the caring and compassion that you have. If you ever have need of us, you forever have an ally and friend in all of us, the leader said. May I ask what you call yourselves? Alan asked, feeling a little stupid asking, but had been taught if you didn't know, ask, there was always power in knowledge. Yes, Transari, we are called Trembly, the leader replied. We will raise an effigy to you, so that all will know that we are not alone, that at least one being cares for us. I do not like to be praised as a god that I am not. At present, I am trying to stop many with power like me who think they are, Alan explained. Yes, we have sensed this. Take this. The leader handed a box to Alan, which fell through his hand. Again, there were a great many gasps. Many withdrew in awe. You aren't really here, are you? No, I am still on my planet. Though I do wish to help as many as I can, I am not always truly there, Alan said. The leader bowed. We respect your wishes, Transari. When you can, we would greatly love a chance to actually meet you. When you depart, this will follow you and be near you. It has a great many more benefits than just travel. Please be well, Transari. Alan just blinked. Okay, where was the fight? The suffering he had to ease? This was an unusual case. There was nothing that he's gone through in the first 3 cases he'd been on. Still unable to move, Alan just stood there waiting. There had to be something that he'd missed. The cases were never that easy, and to win the love of a people for really doing nothing but showing that he cared? All right, he thought, what was the trick? Nothing was ever that easy, especially for me. Suddenly, Alan felt a tug and was opening his eyes on the bed in his room. How was it? Hopix asked as soon as he appeared. Something is going on. Alan said, I've never had a case go that easily. A moment later, he summoned the council. All right, what the hell is going on? They all looked at Alan with questioning looks. I've never had an easy case. He then proceeded to tell the council everything that had happened. Wait, the elder spoke up. You actually entered his mind and crushed his abilities? Yes, I thought that's what I said. He can't change form anymore. He's a lizard till I let him change. He can't absorb power anymore. The other 2 I'm unsure of. I made sure they wouldn't come back. I sealed them after I broke them. All of the council members were sitting there with open mouths. They'd thought it a fluke when Alan had done it to the man on Hopix's world, but for him to actually do it in a battle was far more impressive. Also, I set the core of the Trembly world so that it could not be hurt again, Alan said. Again, the council members were amazed. Not only had he defeated the lizard man, taken some of his power, but the Trembly had actually spoken to Alan, an unheard of thing. A moment later, the multicolored box appeared next to Alan. Oh yeah, They also gave me this and wished to actually meet me sometime. I told them I would when I can. Hopix's heart swelled with pride. She knew when she'd found him that he was special, but it wasn't till now that she realized just how special he truly was. The council all stared in dumbstruck appreciation of the control block that Alan had, a block that could let Alan go anywhere he desired, even the few thousands of blocked worlds. It had been no wonder the Dark Council had attacked the Trembly world. Alan held the cube in his hands, feeling all the love and compassion that had been poured into it. He was about to set it down when he heard a weak call for help, huh? Looking around, he thought he heard it again. "I've heard a call for help," Alan said. "I don't know how to use this yet, nor—" Alan felt a short shock. Then he could see where the call was coming from. "I can see it. I can see the people. They look so much like Hopix and her people, though they are very pale in color, paler than even Hopix was." Hopix's eyes grew large. But how? No one had heard anything from that planet in over 5,000 years. She should know she'd sent her younger brother to investigate. If it were true, perhaps her family could be whole again. Tears began to fall from her face. She hoped it was true she had missed her brother fiercely. Alan stood transfixed, staring at the cube, seeing scenes that only he could see playing before his eyes. Moving closer, Hopix touched Alan's shoulder. Suddenly, she was immersed in the same images standing next to Alan. "My God," whispered Hopix. "It's our sister planet so far away." Alan turned to stare at Hopix. He could see her staring in sadness at the ruin and decay. Suddenly, they both heard a small cry for help. Rapidly, they were drawn to where the voice had come from. The council was all opened mouth again. Alan was seeing a blocked word. Was it possible that they had given him the power to go there? Rushing forward, they came upon a younger-looking version of Hopix. Hopix gasped. "That's my brother, he's hurt." The council looked at Alan. "You can obviously go there, but you are on your own, Alan. We lost any chance of helping the people there centuries ago. If you free enough of them, we will then be able to intervene, but not till then. We wish you well and success. You go in blind as we have no information about this place." Alan just nodded, then turned. "I realize this, but this was a genuine cry for help that I cannot ignore. If I can free the world, I will. If not, then I will leave it with those that wish to leave. Please be ready either way. We both know that the Dark Council is upset over losing those 4 worlds. I feel Hopix's world would have given them an advantage that might not have been overcome. They know I have the cube, and I feel they are preparing for my arrival." The entire council nodded, each impressed with Alan's desire to free all that he could on the sister world. Looking at Hopix, he nodded. "I'll bring him home if I can. Know this?" Hopix nodded and threw her arms around Alan's neck, tears falling freely and unashamedly. Then Alan touched his other hand to the cube and was gone. Oh my God. Hopix thought he actually went there. Hopix knew that the Trembly were powerful, but she didn't think they were that powerful. "I have to do something," she thought. Thinking of the last place he'd gone, Hopix concentrated till she was standing on the surface of the planet. Her mouth opened in amazement. It was beautiful. She sat not sure what to do or who to talk to. Looking at many of the flowers, she smiled, using her magic to bring them fully into bloom. They were so lovely. The beings here must love them. No longer concentrating, she started to bring as many of the flowers to bloom as she could. The aroma was so good she just couldn't stop. It was about this time that she noticed quite a few of the green fuzzy beings watching her. Suddenly afraid, she went to the elder. "Elder sir, I wish to apologize to you and your people for bringing your flowers out early. They were so lovely, and I thought I'd try to make it more beautiful for you and them. I meant no harm. I am not thinking clearly." "Little one," the elder started, "never in our history have we had a powerful magical being help us. And in the same day, another powerful magical being apologized to us. Tell me, little one, are you acquainted with the Transari Alan?" Hopix's mouth dropped open. She was just trying to help a habit she'd gotten from Alan. How did they know? Bowing, Hopix nodded and said, "Yes, Elder, I am his magic watchdog for the council." "Ah, I see. You had a chance to go home, yet you came back to Transari Alan. How long have you had a room in your heart for him?" Again, Hopix could only stare open-mouthed. No one knew. I don't. The elder chuckled. Be still, little one. To us, emotions are nothing to feel and read. It is how we truly know when a being means us harm or not. Now then, why are you here, and don't worry, you actually helped. Alan forgot the flowers when he saved us all. A minor point compared to all the other life here. I am worried, Elder. Alan has gone to the sister world of my planet. My brother is there. The Council has no knowledge of it, as it has been blocked by the Dark Council for a long time. Hopix said, still worried about Alan. I feel Alan is more ready than you think. The cube helps him to focus and think clearer. He will be fine, but he needs you, little one. Don't think he doesn't, and don't wait too long before you tell him, or the secret of your people. Again, Hopix could only stare at the elder. Alan appeared on an open field. There seemed to be nothing alive at all. Even as he stood there, a small squad of Phyrexes moved in to attack him. It was almost the same as before. Reaching out, he caught the leader wrapping her tight. He saw she was just as the ones on Hopix's world had been. Clearing her mind, then blocking outside control, she looked up at Alan. Where am I? Then her eyes grew large. Please protect me, she begged. Damn, here we go again, Alan thought. Alan pulled the leader of the squad inside his shield. The squad, though confused, continued its onslaught. Not wanting to play with them all day, Alan let loose a blast, knocking all of the squad out, clearing their minds and blocking all outside thoughts. Alan had reached the last one when the Phyrexy stared straight at Alan. You think you're so fucking righteous, don't you, motherfucker? You're gonna learn what real fucking pain is? There are 10 of us on this planet. You best remember that you might get 1, maybe 2, but you won't get all of us. I'll so enjoy your fucking death, you sack of shit. Then the voice was gone. The woman stared at Alan after he cleared her mind and blocked everything. What have you done? She screamed, I can't hear my master! Shit, he'd been afraid of this. Snapping his fingers, he brought all but the one within the shield. I don't know how you can call that a master. A cruel, torturing, non-caring ass. He cares nothing for you. He has you fooled. Alan threw at the Phyrexy. No, you're wrong, Master loves me. Cares for me as he does all of us, the woman shouted back. Several of the Phyrexes with Alan shouted at her that she was a fool. All he'd done was torture them and take their powers. The lone woman's eyes got huge, but she still refused to relent her position, then flew off. Looking at the group of scared and shaking women, Alan asked if they had a safe place to go. When they answered yes, but it was small and only a few could go there, Alan said that he'd make it bigger and stronger. Arriving, they were met with several shrill screams. Many there were trying to hide. The leader stepped away from Alan, telling all there what Alan had done for them, and how they were free of the voices, and that Alan said that the voices would never be there again. Finally, things calmed down. Alan again was enraged that the peace-loving Phyrexes were being tortured, subjected to horrors of the mind and body that Alan was sure would have drove him crazy long before now. Reaching out, Alan first enlarged the area they were living in. This, of course, brought out concern that now they would be an easier target. Alan just shook his head no and started to strengthen the weak shield around the area. Next, he went to each of the wounded, trying to heal all the physical wounds first. The last time this had worn him out so quickly. Was this the advantage to actually being here? Shaking his head, he still couldn't believe that they had harmed the children. Hours later, Alan was completely done when they all heard an angry buzzing sound. At one of the openings, 2 squads began to pour in, ready to. All of them stopped as soon as they were inside, the confusion on their faces apparent. Alan quickly seized them all, clearing their minds, then blocking all outside influence. A few of those that had just come in began to scream like the one from before. Damn it, thought Alan, just how stupid are these people? Snapping his fingers, the 5 that had complained were gone outside the safe area. I don't think he'll send any more to attack here, Alan said, sighing. Alan could see he needed to expand again. As he did, he felt another safe area not all that far away. Opening a throughway, Alan soon had both areas connected, though he'd actually have to go to the other to strengthen it. The same squad leader said that she would take him after she returned. The woman left down the new tunnel Alan had dug, reappearing in less than 5 minutes with an elder. She has told me you are a Maisie, that you are on the great home planet of all Phyrexes. Is this true? Alan nodded and stared into the eyes of the elder. Tears began to flow from his eyes. Ah, Queen Glimmer is as beautiful as she was when we left. Please come help. I can already feel the spirit of our people so strong. Here, if we have enough of this, I know we can defeat. The 10 deadly masters. Alan nodded. He was going to do all he could, though there were 10. He knew that there was a way to defeat them. Sighing, he just had to find it. Smirking. He also thought, yeah, and survive also. Emerging outside the area, Alan surrounded himself and the elder with a shield. Slowly, they made their way almost another mile across the twisted, dying landscape. Finally pissed off, Alan stopped the elder. I have to repair this. Waving his hand, he saw how it was, then how it should be. Within a few moments, the air cleared. Color returned to the land. The elder smiled. Ah, he hadn't seen this since they had arrived. Going further, they had almost reached the next sanctuary when more squads attacked. How many, he wasn't sure. So they thought they could overpower him, huh? Reaching out, Alan was through playing with these guys. A huge wave flowed from him, shocking all the Phyrexes. Alan had to hurry, knowing that they would recover quickly. Damn, there had to be over 200 here. The last 2 were clearing when a different voice came from them. So, you are really here. We were warned that you might try to retake this world. Come, we await and welcome you to try. Once you are dead and your power ours, nothing will stand in our way. Alan smiled. It was this type of bragging that the one on Hopix's world had spouted. Pathetic. Well, you can try, that's all I have to say. But even with 10 of you, I doubt you could win. Especially with all that I have freed. The less you have command of, the less power you have. You really don't have any power of your own? Alan sneered. Enraged, not again. Fireballs started to fly at Alan. Alan had learned since last time, opening a portal in front of his shield. He heard screams on the other side. Smiling, Alan thought that was one less to worry about. Even if it didn't kill him, it would render him unable to do much. Moments later, all the squads awoke. Looking around, they all seemed lost. Well, all but 10 of them. Those he isolated together, sighing when they started to scream at him. The rest of them Alan pulled within his shield. Most were staring at the elder and Alan. As they all started to bow to Alan, he shook his head. Do not bow, I am not a god. One of the women staring at the ground started to whisper. You are Maisie, and you are to be bowed to and served. No, I am not like the others. I am here to free your people, Alan stated. Several of the women looked up at Alan, then at the elder who was shaking his head, yes. Starting to walk again, Alan and the others arrived at the second sanctuary. Waving his hand, they all appeared within the confines of the sanctuary. Again, there was a lot of screaming and Phyrexes scurrying to hide from him. Even with the elder there were still 2 afraid to come out. Shaking his head and for the moment isolated, Alan stretched out his arms, feeling the shield defenses. Pushing, he soon had them enlarged. Next, he began to expand the interior of the hideaway. Walking around again, he found a young being the others had abandoned when they fled. More angry than he could believe, he looked at the twisted, burnt, suffering little girl. Trying to calm himself again, there was more screaming as his hands began to glow. Not caring, Alan stooped over the little girl. Alan could see the fear in her eyes, but more than anything else, he saw the horrible pain she was going through. Holding her hand, Alan's tears began to flow from his eyes. This in turn caused the little girl to no longer fear him. Trying to lift her hand, she whispered, It's okay, great Maisie. It doesn't hurt that much. I will be fine, please don't cry. Suddenly, the little girl's skin began to glow, then started to clear. The little girl looked up at Alan in surprise. Then her broken arm straightened and was whole again. The little girl was shocked. Alan looked deep into her eyes, seeing a sparkle appear that hadn't been there before. Alan saw the elder approach, keeping the rest back, staring in disbelief at the wonders Alan was accomplishing. Finally, a mere 20 minutes later, the little girl sat up, her eyes opened wide, throwing her arms around Alan. She whispered a heartfelt thank you, then kissed him on the cheek. Please cheer up now, great Maisie. Also, if you can. My friends were hurt also, though not as bad as I was. I tried to stop the bad Maisie from hurting them. so I didn't mind when he hurt me as long as he stopped hurting them. Again, tears fell freely from his eyes. God, he thought, I wish I had half the courage she does. Following her, they went further back in the sanctuary. In another room, there were dozens of children who were hurt, along with quite a few adults. Again, Alan's ire grew, till his hands were glowing. Kneeling, he started to heal them 2 at a time, often staying in one place almost a half an hour. Many sat up startled. Many thought they'd never walk nor fly again forever in pain from twisted and broken limbs. Finally, all of them were healed. Alan felt tired. A good tired. He finally felt he was truly helping. Sitting, he leaned against the wall, fighting the urge to sleep. He'd helped them, sure, but that was no guarantee they wouldn't attack him if he fell asleep. The elder floated over to him. Sleep, Maisie, you are safe, and no one will attack you. Nodding, Alan drifted off. Soon he was back in his room. Hopix turned staring at him, her tear-streaked face more than standing out to him. I have freed many, but nowhere near enough yet. This world is so much bigger compared to your world. I will return when I can, Hopix, Alan told her. Please be careful, Alan. The 10 sounds extremely dangerous, Hopix stated. Well, 9 of them. I've already taken one out of the picture. He won't bother me after I burned him, Alan told her. From behind him, he heard the council. That's good, though you still have the other 9, the council leader said. Yes, that may be true. But if you remember, they're very rarely together or for another. That I believe is the way to defeat them, Alan responded. The council leader nodded. Remember, though, a common enemy can sometimes forge alliances that otherwise would have never been. Alan also nodded. This was one thing he hadn't thought of. Was he enough of a threat to all of them? Then yes, he could see them uniting to stop him. Alan jerked awake a few hours later. Laying there, he listened to the now happy-sounding children. Many of the adults were still in shock, hardly believing that a Maisie would help and heal. They always killed each other and hurt everyone else to instill fear. Alan just shook his head sadly, to be judged before he even arrived. Did all the mages' wizards act like this? Christ, they were giving the few good ones a really bad name. Still almost afraid to move, he needed to find out everything he could about the other 9 before he tried to go against them. Thinking hopefully they would make this more interesting, Alan just hoped that not all of these idiots only used fireballs. It was more than easy to defend against them now. Looking at his heads at least now, he knew why so many were afraid of him. So that was what a physical manifestation of the power looked like. He had to remember that. Thing is, though, why had it appeared then? He'd brought his power up and concentrated it. But he'd done that before and hadn't noticed anything. Talking to the elder, Alan decided he needed to go after the other 9 deadly masters, as the elder called them, before they united and decided to come after him. Alan reached out, feeling the 10 distinct areas of power on the world. Cold, dark, evil power. Well, 9. One wasn't even half as strong as the others. Rising out of the sanctuary, Alan started toward the nearest dark power. Obviously, the masters had been warned and were keeping all the squads away from him. Problem was, Alan thought he might have chosen the strongest of those left. Hell, it was just they were the closest. After a few miles, the power started to grow stronger, or so it hoped to fool Alan into thinking. Stopping before an ominous, dark building, seemingly to grow from the ground, Alan felt the power start to shift. Oh, great, Alan thought. They're using the Phyrexes again. Opening his senses all the way, Alan was aware long before that the supposed master was trying to ambush him. Standing still, Alan felt them moving slowly. Whirling 180 degrees, Alan blocked several bolts of electricity, and, finally, shaking his hand, Alan smiled. Well, at least this one is more interesting. A moment later, Alan wasn't sure what it was that crawled from the dead bushes behind him. All Alan knew for sure was it had no legs, was gray, with several eyes on the surface, almost like a moving jello? The moving mass said, shooting an acid-like substance at him. Alan nodded his head better, then his face screwed into a look of rage, Alan thought at the mass. Laughing, an almost tentacle-like appendage pointed at Alan. Pissed off, Alan reached out, then entered the mind of the mass. He grabbed the magic center of it, squeezing, pulling, tearing, and then finally yanking as hard as he could. Alan could feel the power of the mass fade. It screamed in Alan's mind. Finally, the magic center, now an empty hole, Alan formed the plug, stuffing it in, effectively shutting all power off. Alan told the mass, watching it wither, trying to crawl away and hide. Sighing, Alan thought that's too. Alan thought he'd just started to turn when a not again fireball flew by his arm. Holy shit, that actually hurt. Increasing. His shields wasn't that easy. The pain in his right arm was radiating into his shoulder and back. Son of a bitch. Forgot about the other 8. You get him? The dark, twisted human shape said. Not sure. I hit something. The tall, what appeared to be a long-legged bird said. We have to be sure. A black cloud-like entity said. I'm uncertain what he did to Grok. Hell wasn't even close. And with Thront out of commission, that's a lot of territory open now. As long as this asshole is loose, there's a chance he could kill us. Just remember what the council said. I don't give a shit what the council said. This son of a bitch is mine, his soul is mine. Turning, she looked at the other 2 with a menacing look. Don't get in my way. Damn it, Thara. If they come after you, it's your ass then. Just remember right now when he kills your ass that you did have help. Laughing, the black cloud said, You don't anymore. With that, the cloud and twisted-looking human flashed out. Cautiously, the female bird entity crept closer. Finally, where he was, she saw that he was long gone. Damn it! Concentrating, she sent out a message. I wait for you to gather the courage to come after me. Here she paused and laughed. If you even dare. Alan appeared not far from where he'd been. His abilities weren't working that well. Neither was his damn arm. Thinking of the sanctuary, he again tried to flash out. By his estimate, he made it halfway there. Sweat was starting to form on his brow as the amount of pain was increasing. I have to make it, he thought. Again, Alan thought of the closest sanctuary. Pushing with everything he had, he again flashed out, this time appearing next to the opening to the sanctuary. Alan smiled. He'd made it. Then the strain on him from the amount of energy he'd had to use hit him. Stumbling forward, he started to feel lightheaded, looking at the opening again. Alan thought, I am going to die here. Again, he tried to move forward. The effort was draining what energy he had left. Damn, his arm was killing him. Finally, at the hole, he grasped the edge, trying to pull himself into it. Alan was fighting harder than he'd ever fought to keep his eyes open. Darkness started to descend. Well, I tried, Alan thought. At least 2 of those murderers were gone now. Sighing, he suddenly felt hands. It felt like dozens of hands pushing, pulling, whatever they could to get him inside. Why, Alan thought. They were so afraid of him. His last thought was of being carried to a bed. Well, at least I'm going to die in comfort, he thought. Then nothing. Hopix returned back to Alan's room. More worried than she'd been to date, what Alan was doing was dangerous, courageous, and absolutely crazy. All she could think of was that he could die alone, never knowing, thinking no one else cared. Holding the cube close to her breast, Hopix thought of all the Elder had said. Looking at the cube, the Elder had said that when she needed to use it, she could. It was much more than a travel aid, so much more. Hopix had stared at the Elder. When she needed it? Sighing, she thought, can't the older generation ever not be cryptic? As old as she was, and they still treated her like a young one, at times it infuriated her, but only at times. She sat to wait on Alan's return, working up the report she would have to file for Alan after all this was over. She'd gotten through the first of it, the visit to the Trembleys, the strange visions. She'd just started on the rest when the cube started to glow, huh? She'd never seen a cube glow before. What was going on? Picking it up, she suddenly started to see visions like Alan had. She saw him save the first few, the sanctuary, and the second sanctuary. Then she saw the fight with the horrible creature. She felt Alan start to relax his shields. That's when she saw the other 3 screaming at Alan that there were 3 more behind him. Even as she watched in horror, Alan started to turn. She was glad he had, or the fireball would have hurt him seriously. As it was, the damn thing got halfway through seriously singeing his right arm. "No, Alan!" Hopix screamed, watching Alan flash out 3 times the last short of the sanctuary. "I have to help him," Hopix said to herself. The cube began to glow, and next thing she knew, she was beside Alan. To her amazement, several Phyrexes appeared staring at her with open mouths, ignoring them. Hopix tried to get Alan in the sanctuary. She was starting to get frustrated when finally the rest got Alan into the safe area. The elder could only stare at Hopix. By the Great Queen she looked familiar, but he couldn't place where he'd seen her before. She appeared to be young, only about 4,000 to 5,000 years old. She'd have been young when they left so long ago. They'd gotten the Maisie in safely. The elder had heard that 2 of the bad Maisies were no longer controlling their areas. This was a good thing for the moment, but they had to act on it soon. For that, they needed Maisie Allen. He watched the Phyrexe that had appeared near the Maisie as she kneeled next to him. What was she doing? The elder thought. His mouth dropped agape. She was a healer. This could only mean no. He wasn't about to get his hopes up. Hopix extended her hands, trying to relieve the pain. This didn't help. Reaching in his head, Hopix entered his dream. "Alan," she called his dream self, "you have to start healing yourself. You were hurt in a sneak attack." "Huh?" he said, looking up. "I was wondering where you were. Just start healing yourself, okay? I can't heal you enough. Only you can," she told him. Sighing, Alan said, "All right, but you have to be there when I wake up, okay?" "I will be," she replied. "I will be."